Hey, Discern listeners, 90 Day Fiancé. Let's watch.
Don't be stressed, okay?
Okay, so to catch you up, he wants to be an MMA fighter, and he's training a lot, and Ariela is going along with it, but also worried that he's not going to make money off of it, and it will take him away from the house. She also mentioned that when they were in his hometown, he worked all the time, and we remember hearing things along those lines, and I wonder if that also has to do with just the nature of his work. He did a lot of different types of work. I also think it has to do possibly with his culture, that men in his culture might not, I don't know, spend a lot of time at home. I don't know. I could be wrong about that. And also that I think he's a little avoidant attachment-wise, and those individuals tend to default to a more outside of the home lifestyle because there's less emotional vulnerability in your work typically, especially if you engineer it that way. And so I think that's part of their dynamic. And then of course I think she's preoccupied attachment. I don't know. She has a lot of signs of it, and we've seen them over a number of seasons. So we've had a lot of data along those lines that for him to be even just working a 9-to-5 job, I'm guessing that would give her some anxiety, which is okay. It's not her fault, but to have the two of them be able to talk about that. But anyway, so he wants to be an MMA fighter, and I'm not super aware of the industry in terms of how you can get into that sort of thing and how much money you can make. But I do have a friend of mine, Ivan Salivary, who was an MMA fighter, and he actually did it professionally for a while, and he has a gym, or he had a gym, I don't know if it's still there, in Seattle, where he actually trains MMA and various different other things. And so I know a bit through him of the trials and tribulations of it. You have to be very good, obviously, and you can obviously make a lot of money if you're really good at it, but usually people aren't. And it takes a tremendous toll on your body, which obviously makes sense. Not only your joints and your limbs and this sort of thing, but your brain. That amount of damage to your brain, concussion-wise, even minor concussions can cause long-term problems with your brain that can lead to all sorts of problems: depression, suicide, other personality changes, fatigue, pain, confusion, memory problems, all sorts of stuff, early dementia. And sometimes I worry about that with me because I played football throughout my life as a kid, and there was no talk about protecting your head. People would have concussions. I would have concussions and just kind of walk it off and then go back onto the field. I'll say that for Benny, he wants to become an MMA fighter. There can be issues with that. It's in terms of brain damage, and there was some tension, and there's been some building tension around this in their relationship, which I totally understand where Ariela is coming from, because it's just like, so your career plan is to be an MMA fighter, which is not a strong, solid plan. I don't know how much training he's been through prior to this. I know that he taught kickboxing or something, so maybe he's very good at it. But MMA fighting is like a whole other it's one thing to teach a class. It's one thing to hit the bag. It's another thing to be in the ring with people. And along these lines, I grew up also wrestling. There's a fair amount of wrestling involved in MMA. And with Ivan Salivary, the friend of mine who became pro, he and I in college would actually wrestle a lot. And even though he would always beat me, I held my own. Now, later on, as he trained, there's no way, especially once you start getting, because I never boxed and I never got into that sort of stuff. And so I'm sure he would have, within 1.5 seconds, would have dropped me. But when you wrestle with people that don't know how to wrestle, it's very easy to beat them. But with Ivan, he did wrestle, and so he was very good and eventually became an MMA fighter. Anyway, point is, I understand where Ariela is coming from. And I'm always wondering, how are they talking about this? Because, if Ariela was like, look, totally support your MMA thing, just like I supported your dancing thing, just like I support, but what's the plan in terms of if this doesn't work, at least in the short term? What's the contribution money-wise? Now, other people will say that, and the parents have said this, that Ariela also does not have a viable career. Like, her criticizing him is, the kettle calling the pot black. What's the pot calling the kettle black? Anyway, I'm terrible with idioms, as you know. So I just always wonder whenever they get into these topics, how do they talk and what's the plan? Because I'm guessing that there's more talk and more rationale around this that isn't shown to us because it's more interesting to show. It would be boring, I guess, to show people having a viable conversation about finances. So it's hard to know what's happening. But anyway, so here's the final point that I want to get to was that they were having tension, and Biniyam did this little thing. He's like, don't be stressed, and then he does this little dance, and everyone in a relationship right now, that both of you, or if you're poly, all of you, should have that mechanism that when there's tension and you have the ability to regulate enough such that you can do something to kind of loosen up the tension, then do it, right? Like with my wife, she'll say something, don't be grumpy, she says. And because, I'll be grumpy or something, and I will be the one kind of becoming more stressed or distressed or upset or something. And she doesn't want that. And so she will say in a joking way, don't be grumpy. And then the whole Johnny Depp thing with the word grumpy, I guess it changes everything. And then that usually works. In fact, I would guess that it always works, that I'm always like, okay, yeah. So you can help each other out by having those mechanisms. And you can also help out by when someone does that to you, that you respond, because they're probably right. So he just exhibited that, which is great. And I'm guessing that's kind of his role in the relationship.
Oxen, seatbelt.
We can go inside. Come on.
Go ahead.
So Biniyam appears to be sparring with a woman, and Ariela is about to arrive at the gym. It looks a little contrived, but all right. And what does this mean? Well, he should know that Ariela would get upset about this even if she just found out about it, and should either talk with Ariela prior, not to get permission, but to just say, look, there are lots of different people who will spar, and sometimes the available person is a woman, and just know that there's nothing sexual happening, and if you want to be there, that's fine with me. Similar to the dancing thing that Biniyam did with his former partner. It didn't look to me like Biniyam was trying to get something on with the dancer or had residual feelings towards her. I think Biniyam really wants things to work with Ariela. So, it's similar to that. And I'm guessing for people that aren't familiar with groundwork and wrestling, that you might think like, how can it not be sexual? In fact, when I would wrestle in those tight little things, people would often make jokes like, it's so gay and it's sexual and like you're groping each other. And I'm like, get your mind out of the gutter. Like, this is a sport. That's the last thing on your mind. Like, it just has nothing to do with it. And so if I'm guessing, and I never did wrestle with a woman, but if I had, I'm guessing it would have been very similar. It's just like, not everything is sexual. Like, not every physical contact that people have has to do with sex. In fact, it's clear. Anyway. So it's probably not sexual to Minnie. It's probably not sexual for her. Yeah. So I'm just going to say that. Who knows? But I just doubt it. But having said that, Biniyam should know that it'll trigger Ariela in terms of her attachment, anxiety, jealousy, this kind of thing. And now maybe because when Ariela saw him dancing, she was totally fine with it. I remember when the mom and her were sitting in the audience years ago, and the bongo thing, and Ariela was just like, oh, okay, whatever. And there was a little bit of concern, so hopefully it'll just be like that.
Get the hand off the top now, because she has.
I will say, though, that his groundwork does not look very good. And in MMA, you at least have to have some proficiency. And he can be trained, obviously, but that kind of training can take a long time. It's one thing to know how to kickbox, and especially if you're just doing it non-competitively, to where, you know, you have good form and it looks good, you have good power, you have good mobility, but it's a whole other thing when you get into the ring. And wrestling, you know, there are MMA fighters that all they do is get you on the ground and like pin your arm or break your arm or get you into a hold, and you're done. You can be excellent in terms of boxing and that kind of stuff, but it's pretty easy to pull someone down and leverage them and just take him out that way. So she is just completely throwing him around. In fact, we used to call people like him fish, you know, in wrestling. We'd be like, oh, he was such a fish. It was so easy, meaning that they're just kind of floppy and you can just pretty much do whatever you want with them. And that looks like that's what's happening. Now, who knows? Maybe he's a lot better than that. We remember the scene where he like was almost choking out that one guy, the friend who came with the bras. I don't know. So maybe she looks really good. She looks like she really knows what she's doing.
That one on the top. There you go. Turn. Good work, and
Can you just watch Avi for a minute?
sure. Reset.
So you didn't think to tell me that you would be training with a girl?
Hey, she's my friend. What's wrong?
Yeah. I mean, you should probably just lay low and then on the way home say like, so it hurt my feelings that you didn't tell me, and it triggered me in terms of just seeing you with another woman. I know that I don't think anything. Can we talk? You know, there's a way to talk about that, but she's coming in real strong, which is her way. I don't know if she's just triggered or she feels like she's entitled to this kind of talk, or culturally she feels like this is what she's supposed to do to defend her honor. I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, you didn't, what's your name?
Melissa. Hey, just talk to me.
No, I'm talking to her. What's your name?
Hey, Melissa.
And then to go after her, like, how is she involved in this? The Melissa, the sparring partner, she's just there. Like, this whole mindset is, and I'm sure it is a little mind-boggling to y'all as well, that when your partner is maybe cheating or flirting with someone else, instead of going after your partner, you go after the other person. Like, what's the logic in that? I mean, even if the other person was manipulating the situation, your partner still was open to it, apparently, so you should really be talking with them. But yeah, so she's about to get in a fight with an MMA fighter?
So you have full makeup on usually when you, hey, get out of my way. You didn't think that you would tell me that there was a girl here?
She have competition, just we.
Right, but you didn't think you should tell your future wife?
Right. So totally. But this isn't how we want to talk about it. You just see Biniyam, he's just like, hey, he's just trying, hey, could we talk about this later? He's just begging her, essentially, can you not do this here? And she's just bulldozing her way around. And then she says that you're wearing makeup. She can't wear makeup? Like, what is that saying? Like, somehow, oh, I see, you wore makeup. You're trying to get with my husband? It's a sport. Again, I totally get where she's coming from. Like I said from the beginning, he should have said to her, I think in most situations, you should tell your partner, by the way, I'm going to be sparring with someone, and is that okay? And just know that there's nothing happening there. You can be that, just all that kind of stuff.
I say you're training with the girl?
That's fine, just
No,
practice
I'm
like
asking you,
sometimes.
did you think that you should tell your wife the truth, that there's a girl here named Melissa?
Right, totally legit, and that's not only just unfair to do to her, but also unfair that Ari would show up and just see it and be like, what? And also, it's very worrisome. I mean, just imagine, it's like, wait, so what else are you not telling me? To anyone that's going to be triggering, to people with preoccupied attachment, it's going to be extremely triggering because it's betrayal. It means that you don't really love me. She said something earlier, I don't know if it was this episode or last episode, that she believes that she said this, that he doesn't love me as much as I love him, or he doesn't love me in the way that I love him. I don't know about Ariela, but that's a classic preoccupied attachment statement to make. It's people with preoccupied attachment, and it's a little litmus test for yourself. If you've ever said that, like, no one loves people the way that I love people, and you're angry about it. It's not just like, I have a lot of love to give. You're just like, other people lack integrity or love or attunement, because that was true probably when you were growing up, but it becomes your assumption about everyone. And then when you react and attack other people, they will pull away from you, and then it's true that they're not loving you the way that you want them to love you. So she said a pretty classic preoccupied thing that I've heard from a lot of preoccupied clients. So yeah, that's going to be very triggering for her, of just like, what else is happening that you're not telling me? This is yet another example where you're not including me, and that scares me. You can communicate that more, of owning your own feelings, hurts my feelings, but she's being aggressive, physical as well.
How could you forget? There's no one else
so many
here.
people.
Every time I've come to the gym, Vinny's always been sparring with other men. I didn't realize that he is training with women. And here I come today, and he's like wrapped up with this woman with her legs all around him. It's like, he should have told me, but as usual, he didn't.
Right. All that makes sense. And in the one-on-one interview, she's more differentiated. I believe her that this has happened, something along these lines, often. And you have every reason to be upset about that and to be hurt by that. But there's a way to communicate about it that's less. Now, maybe after this all, if the dust settles, she was able to communicate in a more constructive way to him, and him to her. Like, he should in this moment, so I've been talking about her, he should in this moment say, you're right, I'm sorry, I should have told you, I was wrong, you have every right to be upset, not necessarily because I'm sparring with a woman, because that doesn't mean anything, but the fact that I didn't tell you, which is wrong. So he should be able to say that, absolutely.
This is the same behavior of constantly avoiding conflict that has continued to hurt our relationship. But here we are again.
Right, that's a good point. I didn't think of that. That the reason why she doesn't get anything from him is because he avoids conflict. And I think that's true. And when you are in a relationship with someone like that, and I've been in relationships with people like that, it's very hurtful. It's like the other person thinks they're giving you a favor, doing you a favor by not telling you things. But it's like, but if you don't tell me things and I find them out, then that's lying by omission. It's 10 times worse, right? So by avoiding the conflict, you're just making it 10 times worse later on. And I'm guessing that has happened thousands of times in their relationship. And this is just another example of that.
Oh my God.
What do you think? You think that my fiance should tell me who he's training with? That would be the normal thing.
You got fights coming up.
I know, but do you think he should tell me that he's training with you?
Right. She's not saying he shouldn't train with you. He's saying he should tell me, right? Yeah.
I don't really know what goes on in your house, so
Right,
that's
I'm
kind
saying,
of like...
but you, if you have a boyfriend, right? Do you tell him the people that you train with?
I don't have a boyfriend, but let me tell you something. This game, you gotta go with who you gotta go with.
Right, but yet you still wear fake eyelashes to the gym.
Why would you? So we want to go there? Like, yeah. it's she's not doing herself any favors in the situation. And I was kind of worried about this. I suppose, well, I don't know, but there's a chance that she will sabotage the whole situation and create a scenario where Biniyam now and his MMA people will have a reason to keep her out. And I'm guessing this is what happened with Biniyam and his music friends and his dance people, that she bulldozes and then they all say, she's crazy, we need to get rid of her, which compounds the problem for her, right? Because it keeps her at a distance, and then Biniyam doesn't want to invite you to the gym anymore, doesn't want to invite you to the music studio anymore because of the things that you say. And I also wonder if subconsciously or consciously Ariela wants to sabotage this whole thing, and this is her way of doing it. But I don't think it will work. I think it will just make Biniyam even more isolating and give him more emotional reasons to avoid and go to the gym, which isn't good. It's, they're both playing a dance. They're both doing their part to create this dynamic.
You interrupting his training sessions, like, do you want him to fail?
It makes me uncomfortable.
Oh, imagine how I feel. This is bull, idiot. You're being dishonest. You should have told me who you're practicing with.
She asking me, yeah, they have a girl, they have a boy. Like, that's what.
Yeah, he's just avoiding what she's saying, which has validity, and she's being more calm right now. All he has to do is say, you're right, I should have told you, and I'm sorry. That's all you have to say. Instead of all this other things, like, hey, they tell me to fight, and it's like, okay, and you could have told me.
What I tell her. If she asking me the names, I don't know.
No, he doesn't say girl, boy. He doesn't say anything. No details.
The other thing, even if I practice it like with the professional people,
Yeah,
I can
it's
get
great,
like more.
but
You're asking me, they have a girls, yeah,
he's
they have a
yelling
girls.
again.
Like that's not
He's
about
yelling.
your.
You're yelling right now.
I'm
That's
not yelling.
yeah.
Just
And then she's starting to discount him. Is that yelling? I mean, it's in that direction for sure. It doesn't seem intimidating, though. It seems more exasperated. And yeah, if I were there, I would help her to hear him. It's be like, okay, Biniyam, she doesn't want you to have that tone, but Ariela, what do you think he's trying to tell you right now? Because he's probably becoming more intense because he thinks you're not listening to him. So, were you listening to him? And she would say, yeah, I was listening. Okay, prove it. And then often the Arielas of the world will say, well, he's telling me that I just need to deal with it. And that's just it. And I'd be like, Biniyam, is that what you're saying? No, that's not what I'm saying. Okay, well, what are you saying? And then slow down, actually get them to talk to each other.
some of the.
You're yelling. You're yelling.
I'm upset. I tell you, they have a girl.
No, yeah, you never told me that.
What? Just only we're practicing. Only the
No,
boy.
you
I
never
tell you.
told me.
No.
If you're not going to be honest about what you're doing, and if you're not going to be honest about, who's.
So she's about to do one of these declarations. Instead of saying, well, it just hurts my feelings. It feels like you lied by omission. It's fine that you're sparring with other women, but to find out like I did, it hurts. And it's another time when I feel like you're not including me. I don't know if you're trying to avoid conflict or something, but it hurts my feelings. And it worries me that I wonder what else you're not telling me. That's all. But instead, she goes to control. So let's see what she says.
No,
Boy,
you
I
never
tell you.
told me.
No.
If you're not going to be honest about what you're doing, and if you're not going to be honest about, who's here, and if you're not going to be specific with details, and then.
No problem. Just we
Okay,
working like them.
The problem,
When you go
didn't
back.
listen to anything I just
understand.
said. You're
Let me
just waiting to talk.
No.
You're both doing it. You're both not listening to each other. And it's interesting because Ariela keeps looking at the producer, I think wanting at least facial support. I don't think we usually see that from the couples. I think occasionally we will. But I think Ariela's like, see, look at him. He's ridiculous, right? Because I've heard from cast members that the producers or the workers on this show, you end up having a pretty intimate relationship, not like a intimate romantic, but a pretty deep relationship with some of these people. They know you very well and they care, I guess, about you depending. And so they're there when you're in crisis, and so they become important figures in your life. So it wouldn't surprise me that Ariela would be looking to someone like, see, support me here.
No, let me answer.
I think I'm done.
No. Let me answer.
I'm done.
I understand what you say. I will.
I'm
What
good.
next time? No, sir. Let me tell you just like something.
No, I'm
Okay,
good.
let me tell you just
I'm
like
good.
something.
So stonewalling, he put hands on, which I don't recommend ever, but she is stonewalling and blowing him off, being completely dismissive. I mean, they're both not helping the situation, but I don't know. So she says, we've been through this before, and on the scale of their fights, I'd put this at like a 5, so I'm guessing that they'll recover.
Nightmare.
All right, well, if you didn't know already, I have a Cameo, and we also have merch, so you can buy t-shirts and whatnot below. If you sign up for a Cameo, make sure that you give me a little bit of context. I actually just did a Cameo right now, and it was nice to do that. It's nice to, I don't know, it just feels like, in a way, a two-way conversation with y'all through various different ways, including Cameo. But anyway, and everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.